Informal markets open in Alotau. Mekeo Chiefs impose ban on sale of betel nut. And Colourful run in POM and around the country.
This is the National Emtv News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Sunday's news. Alotau town officially opened their temporary and informal markets. The construction of the temporary markets, which was funded by the National Fisheries Authority, cost 5.1 million kina. These markets will now give way to the demolition and construction work on the main project, which is the Alotau Town Market and Fisheries Facilities Project.
Yesterday marked another key milestone for the township of Alotau. The opening of the temporary and informal markets will now make way for the demolition and reconstruction of the main project, which is the Alotau Town and Market Fisheries Facilities. This project is funded through a 33 million kina grant from the government of Japan through its major development partner, JICA.
I'm impressed that these two buildings are of steel structure, well designed and well constructed. I'm aware that one of these buildings will later be converted to be a car wash corner to accommodate local car wash and vendors. This will showcase local traditional skills in carving, weaving, sewing, and threading of your famous buggy to promote income earning opportunities through arts and tourism.
Ambassador of Japan to PNG, Satoshi Nakajima, said it is his hope that the market will help Milne Bay Province and the economy. This was his first time in Alotau, and he was impressed with the new infrastructure and culture.
With you in the years ahead, and that we will do our best to complete the market rehabilitation project in the timeline as is expected. Thank you very much.
The signing of the contract for the Alotau Town Market and Fisheries Facilities Project will take place on the 10th of August 2018 in Tokyo, Japan. Fisheries Minister Patrick Basa is confident and remains committed to delivering this project within 16 to 18 months.
It does not mark the completion of Alotau Town Market and Fisheries Facility Project, but rather clearing the pathway for the full construction of main market.
Lilian Soperakinea, National Emtv News, Alotau.
Still in Alotau, the residents have been challenged to be responsible and to take care of public properties. This was said by Milne Bay parliamentary leaders at the opening of the temporary and informal markets yesterday. Apart from parliamentary delegation was member for Alotau and Deputy Prime Minister Charles Abel.
Kiriwina Goodenough member and Forest Minister Douglas Tomoriesa and Alotau Open member and Deputy Prime Minister Charles Abel officiated the opening of the temporary and informal markets in Alotau. During their speeches, they challenged their people to look after these public properties. MP Tomoriesa addressed individuals present, stating that the government and development partners spend a lot of money for infrastructural development in rural and urban areas.
Call to the rest of Milne Bay and for the people of Alotau Open. You have such beautiful, wonderful buildings built here. Please, let's care for these buildings where a lot of money has been spent for these purposes.
Abel told residents that the market program is a big program that Japanese International Cooperation Agency, also known as JICA, is supporting.
They completed the Wewak market already. They completed the Medang market already. I was in Medang last week, and those are operational. And they are continuing on, so it's a national program. It's not just a program for Milne Bay or Alotau. And even they're extending their hand to create fish markets in places like Losuya that Douglas is talking about. So it's part of a bigger program that government is trying to think about the whole country and create benefits out of the fisheries resources.
He reiterated what Kiriwina Goodenough MP had said, saying that everyone has a part to play in looking after these assets.
Times when you drive along the new road in Port Moresby or new building and you just see the graffiti or the boy's pet and all this, and you just wonder, are we really interested in development, or some of our people? Or we just want to sit down and complain and blame everybody else for our misfortunes? And we should really ask ourselves, what are we doing? Every time you accuse the leader, you also have to accuse yourself. What are you doing to support development?
The construction of the new market will include freezer facilities and a jetty for those from outside islands to park their boats and store their fish. Lilian Soperakinea, National Emtv News, Alotau.
From warm-up stretches to the splash of the paints, the 2018 Colour Run in Port Moresby was somewhat colourful. The event saw close to 2,000 men, women and children participate. Similar events were conducted in 4 other centres in the country as a fundraising event for charity.
Participants stand up at the Sir John Guy Stadium for the Petroleum Islands Colour Run as early as 6 a.m. The fun-filled event attracted children as young as 3 years old. Once the participants completed a few warm-up stretches to the beat of few international numbers, the Colour Run kicked off. Similar to the annual Chukai Fun Run, the 5-kilometer run started at the main entrance to the indoor complex towards Baroko Motors, down Ward Street Primary, around the Japanese Embassy, up the Independence Drive and back to the stadium. The event is split into 5 divisions with paint stations at each division. As participants go past each stations, a color of paint is splashed onto them, beginning with yellow and green and finishing off with red. The event is into its 2nd year with the aim to raise funds to support charity activities in the country. Funds raised this year will be given to Calgary Clinic to support the operation of the clinic. Tekla Gunga, National Emtv News.
16 bags of blood have been donated by models participating in the 2018 Miss Pacific Islands pageant. The donation is a response to the shortage in blood supply at the Port Moresby General Hospital. Prime Minister's wife and MPIP patron Linda Babao O'Neill was amongst the models who donated blood. Ilimo Dairy Farm has also supported the donation through the provision locally produced Ilimo milk and local strawberries from their Enga farm to those who donated. Meanwhile, the blood bank is appealing for more people to donate blood, especially for the annual Operation Open Heart, which begins on July 28. Here at National Emtv News, Mekeo Chiefs in the Central Province have imposed a ban on the sale of the popular nut outside their villages. That story and more when we come back. The special convention of Jehovah's Witnesses concluded in Port Moresby today with close to 10,000 attendees from all over the country and abroad. Described as the first of its kind in terms of magnitude, the convention aims to strengthen the faith of Jehovah's Witnesses and the sharing of the gospel.
The 3-day special convention held in Port Moresby is an international event that is supported by the Jehovah's Witness headquarters in the United States, attracting 600 international delegates from the US, Europe and the Pacific. The event coincides with the launching of the full Tok Pisin Bible version. Dan Bucks, a missionary who came with his wife to Papua New Guinea in 1994, explains that the convention aims to extend the sharing and strengthening of their faith.
What plus something me like calling? Now I am talk belong help him all get the man. Belong you make it strong in bed. You know something belong you may 1-1. You may must look long God will make him. Now this play by help him all get the man. Now one play, another play, plus something he come along, rope along this play keyboard, me play kiss him new play Bible, new play time translation, belong all scripture holy. Now, keep up along Genesis and going up along Revelation. This translation along talk pigeon. Clear. Now, who said it read him can kiss him good. Talk belong God.
Missionaries of the Jehovah's Witness came to Papua New Guinea in the early 1900s, establishing their headquarters in Port Moresby.
They may belong, all get to hop along ground, all witness belong Jehovah along headquarters belong me pala along United States, all the straight team road along put him this for the key along all get to hop. So him belong strong him all witness belong Jehovah along make him walk belong all. Now help him all family, so he got good for the talk along help him all family. Now help him all one man on car him heavy along this for the time no good. So long when we get plenty something he come up along now and put him heavy along all witness belong Jehovah and all brother sister belong me pala all he must find him road along car him heavy along road belong stop close to along God long time all he read him good Bible along all get today. Now go along on meeting belong me pala. Now all he make him yet this fellow walk all man he savi along in on time he put around out him talk.
Their mission work spread to the other centers, including Ley, Medang, and the Highlands. Teklagunga, National, MTV News.
Jiwaka Governor Dr. William Tonga presented its provincial development plans for the next 5 years to National Planning Minister Richard Maru and his department to help assist develop the province. The National Planning Development Plans include key areas of health, infrastructure, education and human development. This makes Jiwaka Province the first to present its 5-year national plan to the Department of National Planning and Monitoring.
To effectively implement the plans on its deliverables of the major sectors, a total of 100 million kina is needed, while over a 5-year period the funding would stand at 564 million. Jiwaka's 5-year plan is broken into 2 different sectors, the economic sector and social sector.
So basically we are here to give the midterm development plan together with the 5-ticket process that we have here. We have done 5 of them. Coffee is on our priority list because close to about 90% of the population in Jiwaka lives on coffee.
Economic sector includes lands, infrastructure, tourism, agriculture and information and communication technology, while the social sector is based on health, education, law and justice, community development and human resource. At the launching, Minister for National Planning Richard Maru says he will do everything he can to help Jiwaka Province achieve its 5-year development plan.
They are the first to come and bring their provincial plan to us for the next 5 years, and now I will be calling on all the other provinces to do the same and all the districts to bring all your 5-year development plans to national planning, so we could have a look at all your plans, make sure they are aligned, and we could factor some of the key projects they want within the national development plan and make sure they are funded in the 5 years that this government will be in office.
Jiwaka's national development plans also highlights the setbacks, needs and recommendations to the national government and other potential development partners on how all parties can actively participate in the development of the province. Also, for the first time, Jiwaka provincial government has included in its plan the establishment of a business arm to generate internal revenue.
It's going to be a massive task, massive challenge, but I think we can all work together to deliver on your 5-year provincial development plans.
In the next 5 years, the plan is to establish major government services, infrastructure development for health, law and order, education and other vital services to make the province self-sufficient.
While we are concentrating on the Kochigo hospital, as we've discussed, we also declared the hospital as provincial hospital. At the same time, we are trying to look at the district hospitals as one of our major ticket projects for the 5 lists that we have here today. In the last 5 years, we've been investing in new secondary schools and high schools, and now we're having problems with dropouts who are coming out of grade 12.
Godwin Eki, National, MTV News.
National Planning Minister Richard Maru is encouraging Jiwaka Province to start leasing its customary land for investors to bring in their businesses and develop the land. Minister Maru says while international investors are willing to grow and expand in PNG, a collaborative effort is needed by the provincial government and the investors to negotiate areas of demand that will benefit both the province and its people as well as the investors.
So I think it's a very exciting journey in this country.
Focusing his attention on dairy, coffee and cocoa in the country, Minister for National Planning and Monitoring Richard Maru says Jiwaka Province has the potential to produce and become the main hub of dairy production in the country. Minister Maru says in order to bring in private sector investors, provincial heads must first clear of land title issues, fix law and order problems and other criminal acts that may keep the investors away.
And when I go and tell a country and an investor that you are going to come, and this province has got the land, their titles, they have no issues, I want to know that I can say that with confidence. The last thing you want to do is bring investors and have issues. It's not good for the country, it doesn't look good for the province, and it may spoil what I think would be very, very good for Jiwaka. So I think it's a very exciting journey. And this country really needs a big dairy industry.
Jiwaka Governor William Tongap said that the land is being made available in the province.
We've had some discussion with our churches in the province, Catholic Church, Lutheran, and other churches that have very big land area in the province. Catholic Church, we've progressed discussions. They've provided us land titles and land over 500 hectares already. To continue our discussion on dairy projects. So we have that information with us here.
Minister Maru says PNG's free trade policy, the country is capable of producing and exporting most of its products in the region. He said Jiwaka Province has had problems regarding coffee growing in the past, but the future is looking good for cocoa and dairy in the province.
PNG has a free trade agreement with Fiji, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands. If we have a dairy industry here, our milk will end up in the shelves of these countries because we can access those markets without paying duty.
Minister Maru believes that Jiwaka Province has the potential to grow and develop.
With the coffees, we've had issues in the past, and you have to convince the bank that it's okay for them to look at some funding in the future. Cocoa, we will do it because I know cocoa will do very well in Jiwaka. Sort the land out so investors can come, put up their factories, put up their plants, put up their hardware, put up their supermarkets. So Jiwaka people don't have to go to Hague, and I keep saying that. They need to come to your headquarters and they come and shop, do business, and they go back to their villages.
He encouraged other provinces to also do the same and start investing in their own resources and make use of the land for bigger profit gains and at the same time become more economically stable by generating its own revenue rather than relying on government support. Godwin Eki, National Emtv News.
A refugee in Manus is in police custody after he smashed the rear windscreen of a PNV bus which provides transport for refugees. 29-year-old Mohammed Suleiman from Somalia is accused of breaking the windscreen over frustrations that the bus failed to pick him up from East Lorengau Transit Center. Manus Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu says the incident occurred last Wednesday and damage valued at over 3,000 kina. The bus is the property of the contracted Paladin Security. Suleiman appeared before the Lorengau District Court last Friday and is remanded in police custody. Karukuhiri District Member Peter Isoaimo raised a question without notice to the Health Minister on Friday concerning the neglected Veifa Health Centre in Mekeo Village. Former Health Minister Michael Malabag had committed 1 million kina but the funding had never been received. The matter was also highlighted during the Central Province Governor Robert Agorobe's visit to Mekeo Village this week.
On behalf of my people, I want the Minister to explain as to whether or not the institution, the Sub-Health Center, is able to receive such funding either through next year's budget or it was just a mere statement by a Minister of State.
Health Minister Sir Pukat Temu's response to Isoaimo's concerns did not offer much of a guarantee for Veifa's health centre.
I understand through the Treasurer that 100,000 was given to the centre. But I will make an undertaking to see what was the basis for that 1 million, what was it for, if it was to upgrade the health center to a proper health center to meet with the standards that we have. Then I will assure the honorable member that we will be able to meet the commitment either through this year or make sure that we include it in next year's budget. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The matter was initially brought up by Vefa Health Centre's officers during the central governor's electoral visit to Mekeo village during the week. Governor Agorobe responded, condemning the practice of making empty pledges.
Oh, it's okay, just pledge. I said, don't ever use the word pledge. Pledge is a bad word. It's like a swear word, so don't ever use pledge. So we will only give what we have. And let's live within our means. But let's step up and let's take control of our lives.
He also announced that the Central Provincial Administration, or CPA, is now operating on a new vetting system for project funding in central districts to avoid instances like this while sticking to a set budget.
We are changing the system now where we put structures in within the last 6 months. We're trying to pass legislation at the provincial level with the decentralization now. We will not support any project in the province. You write a project up to the provincial government, we will not support it unless the councillor signs for it. The councillor will sign because I want the communities now to start organizing yourselves. Every community now, you have to have a community plan. You have to have a ward plan, you have to have a district plan, and you have to have a provincial plan.
Central Provincial Administrator Gay Raga also revealed CPA's plans to establish a long overdue provincial health authority.
Yes, Governor and I, we have already made it our problem to ensure that we will, through the health department together with us, we are now moving forward towards having a PH, a Provincial Health Authority.
While Vefa's Health Centre and Feeder Institute St. Gerard's Health Workers Training School are currently run by the Catholic Church, they have served all 12 Mekeo villages for over 51 years. Raga assured that regardless of its current administration status, once the Provincial Health Authority is in place, it will support the health centre while simultaneously creating an avenue to absorb health workers from the Medical Institute.
Because we want to have an hospital so that we can qualify for the Provincial Health Authority. Provincial Health Authority will never be given to a province unless you have a hospital.
Melissa Gaviro, National Emtv News.
Chiefs of Mekeo village have imposed a ban on the sale of betel nut out of the village. This comes after an increase and continuous harassment of villagers when travelling into Port Moresby to sell their betel nut. The ban was officially endorsed by Central Governor Robert Agorobe, Karukuhiri MP Peter Isoaimo and the 12 chiefs of Mekeo village.
On Thursday this week, the 12 chiefs of Mekeo signed a petition calling for a ban on the sale of betel nuts from Mekeo in the capital city. This follows accounts of continuous harassment on villagers from buyers in the city and the costly exercise of transporting and selling betel nuts. On average, a villager selling betel nut spends about 100 kina just to transport a 40 kg bag of betel nut that would sell for 40 kina in the city. Many a times they return home with little to empty-handed and harassed to sell short of their initial price. The ban falls in line with the central governor's plans to bring the market back to Central Province. Together with Karukuhiri MP Peter Isoaimo and the 12 chiefs of Mekeo, the ban was passed and will carry on for 2 weeks. The ban also entails plans to establish a betel nut market in the Central Province and regulate the quality and quantity of betel nut sales. Melissa Gaviro, National Emtv News.
During his recent visit to Mekeo village, the governor for Central, Robert Agorobe, highlighted a lack of essential provincial infrastructure and the prospect of provincial and financial independence for Central. In light of current issues and legislative changes dating back to the colonial era, the Central governor has ambitious plans for the Central province.
We are the only province in the country that doesn't have an airport. We are the only province in the country that doesn't have a seaport. And we are the only province in the country that doesn't have a township that we can call our own and make it our identity. We are the only province in the country that doesn't have this type of infrastructure that provinces need to generate revenue within the province so that we can pay and support infrastructures like this. A lot of us misinterpret the word autonomy. Autonomy is not like to get independence and move away. No. It's just giving us more powers, like I said earlier, so that we start making decisions and running our province and our affairs. But we still pay to the national government. So we need to start organizing ourselves in our own unique way and then move our province forward. So these three provinces have been given autonomy. There's New Ireland, Enga, and East New Britain. So our challenge now is to be the next lot of provinces to get autonomy.
You're with Sunday's News. Stay tuned for stories making headlines overseas coming up next. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, a man has surrendered to police after shooting his grandmother and was in the run for several hours before handing himself in. But before he surrendered, he took a number of people hostage, leading to 7 people being injured.
Just an incredibly tense several hours here in Los Angeles. 1 person dead, others shot and possibly could expire as well. All of this at a Trader Joe's, a popular grocery store in Southern California. This is the remnants of what was a hostage barricade situation. Around 1:30 Pacific time in the afternoon, the individual shot his grandmother several times. He took someone else with him, a young woman with him. Police later in Los Angeles picked him up and started following him. They were in literally hot pursuit when the young man crashed into a pole outside this Trader Joe's with a gun in hand, starts running in, exchanges gunfire with police. That's when somebody inside the Trader Joe's, a young woman, was hit. Police followed him in, tried to resuscitate her, but she expired at the store. And for then several hours, the individual held up in the store, taking hostages at one point, and then letting them all go later in the afternoon, surrendering himself to police, asking for a pair of handcuffs, which he handcuffed himself, and then turned himself over to police. It has ended.
Investigators of a tour boat that sunk on Thursday in Missouri are questioning why the captain of the ship changed route in the last minute. A total of 17 people lost their lives.
Cyril, Tia Coleman's story is stunning. She spoke to reporters, emotion still very raw, while she's still in the care of the hospital here in Branson, Missouri. She shared with us memories of her loved ones lost, reaction to the devastation she's still processing, and she recounted some details of her experience on Thursday evening.
I've always loved water. I don't know if it's a Pisces or what. I always loved water. But when that water came over the boat, I didn't know what happened. I had my son right next to me. But when the water filled up the boat, I could no longer see. I couldn't feel anybody. I couldn't see. I just remember, I got to get out. I got to get out. And I just remember kicking and swimming up to the top. And as I was swimming up, I was praying. I said, Lord, please, let me get to my babies. I got to get to my babies. I got to get to my babies. And I was kicking, and the harder I fought to get up to the top, I was getting pulled down. And I kept fighting, and I kept fighting. And then I said, Lord, if I can't make it, there's no use in keeping me here. And so I just let go, and I started floating.
Tia says she believes when that boat salvaged from the lake behind me, that the life jackets will all be on board because she says the crew members never instructed the passengers to put them on. Now, that boat still under 80 feet of water here. The divers were able to recover the equivalent of a little black box on board. A video recording also believed to have audio. The box has been sent back to a federal office in Washington, D.C. to be processed. Meanwhile, on Saturday, investigators spent much of the day inspecting a sister vessel provided by the owners of the boat company with the hope that they can familiarize themselves with the configuration of the boat so that when the one sunk at the bottom of this lake is salvaged, they will be able to better understand its working order. I spoke with the state's attorney general today as well, and he pled 3 different times with the owners of the boat company to cooperate with the investigations, I should say, because as he explained, there are 2 parallel investigations at this time.
This investigation is in its early stages. There are actually 2 parallel investigations going on. The NTSB is conducting an investigation into the sinking of the vessel and the circumstances surrounding that immediate event. The Missouri State Highway Patrol is conducting a broader investigation into the circumstances that led to this tragedy beforehand and whether or not this should be treated as a crime scene.
The U.S. Coast Guard tells us they plan to raise that boat in the next couple of days.
The U.S. president is being criticized for not revealing information on his meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This comes after the Kremlin released information on the meeting.
The president is spending the weekend at his golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey, and his Twitter feed was busy on Saturday. He specifically took the opportunity to suggest that the investigation into his campaign's potential ties to the Russian government during the 2016 election could end up having an effect in the election in 2018. The president tweeting, quote, "No collusion, no obstruction, but that doesn't matter because the 13 angry Democrats who are only after Republicans and totally protecting Democrats want this witch hunt to drag out to the November election. Republicans better get smart fast and expose what they're doing." Now, the president's tweet storm comes against the backdrop of increasing criticism for his decision to have this summit with President Vladimir Putin of Russia in Helsinki, and subsequently his decision to invite President Putin to Washington sometime this fall. And there's been a lot of talk about the reaction from the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, who was at a security summit in Aspen. Coates learned of the president's invitation during an interview with NBC, and Coates seemed to be a little bit shocked. Well, Coates attempted to clear the record on Saturday night. He put out a statement that said, quote, "Some press coverage has mischaracterized my intentions in responding to breaking news presented to me during a live interview. My admittedly awkward response was in no way meant to be disrespectful or to criticize the actions of the president. I and the entire intel community are committed to providing the best possible intelligence to inform and support President Trump's ongoing efforts to prevent Russian meddling in our upcoming elections, to build strong relationships internationally in order to maintain peace, denuclearize dangerous regimes, and protect our nation and our allies." You'll note that the Director of National Intelligence makes no mention of whether or not he thinks it is a good idea for President Trump to invite Vladimir Putin to Washington sometime this fall. But there is certainly one person who thinks that the president's interactions with Russia have not been going very well, and that's his former opponent, Hillary Clinton. She had some harsh criticism for President Trump during a festival on Saturday. Take a listen.
The great mystery is why the president has not spoken up for our country. Yes. And we saw that most clearly in this recent meeting with Putin. We don't know what was said in the room with just the 2 of them.
And there's no doubt that we've grown a bit accustomed to President Trump and Hillary Clinton trading barbs long after the 2016 election has been decided. But it's worth pointing out that this is really out of the norm. Usually, after an election like this, the 2 sides go to their respective corners and are respectful of the jobs that they have to do after the fact. That's certainly not the case this time around, and just one other example of how the Trump administration is unlike any presidency we've ever seen.
Humanitarian agencies fear the Central African nation of Cameroon is on the brink of civil war. 180,000 people have been forced to flee their homes in the west of the country, where government forces and minority English-speaking separatists are locked in a various conflict.
A nation sliding towards civil war. That's the warning from West Africa, and yet a war the world has barely taken notice of. Amid an outpouring of troubling images on social media, often hard to verify, we tracked down one witness who claims soldiers destroyed his village and murdered his neighbors.
Houses were being burned, villages are being razed, and innocent civilians who are not even armed are being killed. So many people have to flee.
Human Rights Watch says it has managed to document grave abuses against civilians on both sides.
The security forces continue to carry out abuses, arresting, detaining, and using excessive force against civilian populations, arresting leaders of the separatists, torturing them, and some have been killed extrajudicially.
This rapidly escalating crisis is in the predominantly English-speaking West. It began in 2016 with protests by teachers and lawyers demanding greater recognition for the English language. A government crackdown has increased tensions. Separatists have proclaimed their own unofficial state, naming it Ambazonia. Human Rights Watch has catalogued the destruction of many hundreds of homes. More than 180,000 people have fled the violence since December.
It's really becoming very dangerous, and the question is, can the political elite somehow find political leaders on all sides and civil society leaders on all sides somehow find a way of injecting real serious momentum into some sort of process of reconciliation?
Separatists are accused of targeting civilians, of torching schools, of kidnapping and killing government officials. The government calls its response proportionate. Ahead of elections scheduled for October, many fear the violence will only add fuel to the fires of hatred.
Stay tuned for Trukai Sports coming up next.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Lea Sharks came out winners in the main game played against Goilala Karukas in round 9 of the Central Province Premier Rugby League competition. But it is the Karukas who are in the top 5 placing of the competition.
It was a strong match between the Goilala Karukas and the Lea Sharks. But the favour seemed to be on the Sharks' side as they were collecting more penalties in the first half. In the first 20 minutes of the game, a forward pass by Karukas gave way for the first penalty to the coastal team. The Sharks continued the attack, hoping for a try, but it was little mistakes that prevented the opportunity to score. After 2 more penalties were awarded to the Sharks, they finally put 2 points on the board thanks to a penalty kick from the right foot of Lea's Totona Canio, which ended the first half at 2-0. Both teams returned to the field in the second half, eager to collect more points and claim victory. But it was the defense by the Goilala side that was too strong. And despite few chances to score by the Karukas, the final half was all throws, passes and kicks, but without any scores. The Sharks came out winners at full time with a 2-0 score. Thekla Gunga, National, Emtv Sports.
To cricket, Hebel PNG Barramandi's opening bowler Nosiana Pokana has been cleared of illegal bowling following a reassessment earlier last month in Brisbane. Pokana was reported for illegal bowling during the ODI match between PNG and Hong Kong last December and went through an independent assessment earlier this year at the National Cricket Centre in Brisbane, where his bowling action was found to be illegal. A reassessment last month cleared Pokana as his bowling action was within the 15-degree level of tolerance permitted under the ICC illegal bowling regulations. This means he will be available for selection to play any international match, the most immediate one being the ICC T20 East Asia Pacific qualifiers next month. Though at this stage, if Pokana is reported of illegal bowling again in the next 2 years, he will be required to submit to further testing and eventually suspended for a minimum of 1 year if found guilty of illegal bowling. And that ends Shukai Sports. The weather details coming up next. Stay tuned.
Shukai Sports. Shukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight, in the southern region, mostly fine in Port Moresby and Alotau, cloudy periods in Kerma and Popondetta, and a shower or two in Daru. In the Momase region, cloudy periods in Lae, rainy periods in Wau, rain showers in Madang, cloudy periods in Wewak and Vanimore. In the New Guinea Islands region, rainy periods in Lorengau and Kimbe, a shower or two in Buka, showers in Kavieng and showers and thunderstorms in Kokopo and Rabaul. And in the Highlands region, cloudy in Mount Hagen, some morning fog early in the morning, fog in Goroka and Kundiawa with some rain drizzle, fog and showers in Mendi and Wabag.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Sunday, 22nd of July 2018. On behalf of the entire MTV News team, pleasant viewing and good night.